The desire to not exist at all has come at least once in a lifetime to every awake mind. It's a desire to disappear, but not the same as ending your life. It's the wish to fall asleep and wake up in a different world. It's a desire to live, not die, but in a completely different environment. It's like wanting life to be a modified version of your Facebook profile, where you log out, and all your memories fade away. It's as if there could be a switch where everything and everyone tied to you disappears with a click. A place where nothing matters. An emotionless world where earnings don't count, no one judges you, and no one curses you. It's the wish for a different kind of life, in a different kind of world. A world where you are just yourself, and no one cares about your struggles, your pain, or your existence. This feeling arises especially for the poor and middle class, who don't always have the luxury to enjoy life's finer aspects. Facing a rude boss, getting rejected every other day by big companies, or even by the person you like, all of it makes you want to escape from existence. But not in every case. Leo Tolstoy, for example, was in an intellectual crisis during the peak of his success. His career, family, and finances were all thriving. Yet his wish to escape even led him to suicidal thoughts, which I'll discuss further in the video. What leads to this desire? Why does it happen even during the peak of our times? Arthur Schopenhauer gave a particularly good explanation of how human existence is marked by an unending cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. According to him, our desires are rarely ever fully satisfied. And even when they are, new desires quickly arise, leading to more frustration. This cycle ensures that suffering is a constant part of life. Schopenhauer likened human existence to the will to live, an irrational and blind force that compels us to survive and seek pleasure. But this force ultimately leads to pain, because lasting happiness is unattainable. To him, life is more of a burden than a gift. This idea leads some to believe that non-existence, being free from the cycle of desire and suffering, might actually be preferable to life itself. Friedrich Nietzsche famously declared, "God is dead," expressing the idea that in the modern world, traditional sources of meaning, like religion, have lost their influence. Without a higher purpose or divine plan, life can feel arbitrary and hollow. In this void, philosophical pessimists often argue that existence itself becomes absurd. This sense of existence, where life lacks inherent meaning or value, can push individuals to question whether it's worth continuing to exist at all. Why bear all this suffering if there is no ultimate purpose? This void is called nihilism. To nihilists, human beings aren't the supreme beings we like to think we are. Our existence doesn't have any particular significance, and in the grand scheme of things, we are nothing but a tiny speck in an unimaginably large universe. We live in a reality that seems significant to us only because we are in it. But that doesn't mean it actually matters. This wave of nihilism led many individuals to experience profound despair, even to the point of suicide. Russian literature of the time reflects this existential crisis. Fyodor Dostoevsky's Demons, also called The Possessed, portrayed characters so influenced by nihilism that they turned to murder and self-destruction, as seen in the character Kirillov, who commits suicide to prove his rejection of divine or moral values. The Underground Man from Fyodor Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground expressed this despair while sitting in the corner of his apartment. "I tell you solemnly that I have many times tried to become an insect, but I was not equal even to that. I swear, gentlemen, that to be too conscious is an illness, a real thoroughgoing illness." He was a government officer who despised his job. He continued working there solely because he needed money to eat and cover basic necessities. After the death of a relative, he inherited some wealth, which meant he no longer had to work. He had no friends or close relationships, so he decided to live alone in a small, grimy apartment in St. Petersburg. He wanted to disappear from the world, and to some extent he did in his small apartment. Hopelessness consumed him, and he began to take pleasure in the isolation of his underground apartment. He admitted that he had failed to make something of himself, and now felt that he wasn't even worth the life of an insect. To him, he was just a speck in the corner of his room. In Kafka's The Metamorphosis, when Gregor Samsa transformed into a vermin, he began to ask questions. Why have I changed into this? Am I a burden on my family? Why can't I just live like other human beings? These questions deeply affected him, haunting him throughout his transformation. As the isolation grew unbearable, Gregor eventually became a total nihilist. He found everything around him absurd and meaningless. There was nothing left to live for. Feeling completely done with life, Gregor stopped eating. He no longer cared whether he lived or died. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, is well known for his idea that life has no inherent meaning. In his view, humans are condemned to be free, meaning that we bear the full weight of creating our own purpose in a universe that offers no predefined answers. Sartre himself experienced intense feelings of emptiness and isolation, which influenced his work. He explored these feelings in works like Nausea, where the protagonist is haunted by a sense of existential dread and futility. Although Sartre ultimately believed in creating one's own meaning through choices and actions, he often struggled with his own philosophy, as it required a constant, almost impossible effort to live meaningfully in a world he saw as indifferent. Leo Tolstoy, as mentioned earlier, was a famous Russian writer and thinker who experienced a profound existential crisis later in life, marked by deep depression and feelings of meaninglessness. Despite having a successful career, a family, and wealth, Tolstoy struggled to find any lasting satisfaction or sense of purpose. In his early life, Tolstoy embraced a life of creativity and luxury, but as he aged, he began to question the value and purpose of his existence. This crisis led him to write A Confession, where he vividly describes his despair and the intense feeling that life was ultimately meaningless. He even considered suicide, believing that nothing he achieved, fame, family, or wealth, could provide true meaning. Tolstoy's depression became so severe that he abandoned his previous lifestyle and sought answers through spirituality and faith. Real-life cases like the nihilist Sergei Nechayev show the intense isolation and mental toll nihilistic beliefs can take. Nechayev believed in dismantling society by any means necessary. His life was marked by paranoia and despair, ultimately ending in a prison death, symbolizing the collapse of his beliefs into self-destruction. In the early 20th century, the post-war disillusionment across Europe saw rising suicide rates, as many struggled to cope with the perceived loss of meaning. This pervasive sense of nothingness, of there being no higher purpose or inherent value in life, echoed Nietzsche's concerns that, without a new source of values, humanity would descend into a crisis of meaning. This feeling of emptiness exists because people have different thresholds for bearing the problems life throws at them. Some even wish they had never been born. As Heinrich Heine once said, "Sleep is good, death is better. But of course, the best would be never to have been born at all." A modern example of this mindset can be seen in the case of Raphael Samuel, a 27-year-old man from India who sued his parents for giving birth to him without his consent. While it may seem absurd, it is an extreme expression of antinatalism, a philosophy that questions the ethics of bringing a child into the world. However, the desire to disappear is a different thing altogether. It often stems from mental breakdowns when overthinking and anxiety overpower a person. Imagination, which plays a major role in these thoughts, can be both beneficial and dangerous. On one hand, imagination can lead to overthinking, spiraling into anxiety and depression, raising unsettling questions in your mind. On the other hand, imagining the desire to disappear can provide a temporary sense of relief, a distraction from life's burdens. This desire can push you in two directions. You might end up living a sad, defeated life, or it could ignite a fire within you to change your surroundings, to work harder for the things that have made you feel so uneasy. Ultimately, this thought process has a purpose. It can either work in your favor or against you, depending on how you respond to it. People often turn to drinking or drug abuse when overwhelmed by the desire for non-existence. This thought can lead to a dark conclusion as described by many existentialists, which is not only harmful, but leaves a lasting impact on loved ones left behind. However, there are better options available. It is human nature to feel unsatisfied, to crave more than what we have. As Simone Weil said, man is not made for the purpose of being satisfied. He is made for the purpose of longing. We are here to experience life, and there are so many beautiful aspects you might have taken for granted. You possess a healthy body and mind, two fundamental elements necessary for a fulfilling life. You can always strive to improve yourself, to get into better shape. I remember someone saying, "A man is the happiest when he's building something." This could be a new business, a family, or any personal project. I would explain a line of Fyodor Dostoevsky here that we all probably need: beauty will save the world. Fyodor was actually trying to say the process of suffering was a beauty, and the person who faced all these sufferings is a work of art. He believed that true beauty is transformative precisely because it holds the capacity to absorb and transmute suffering. Beauty, in his eyes, does not deny or escape hardship, but rather acknowledges it as part of the human journey. This idea can be seen in his portrayal of various characters too, who endure great suffering, such as Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment, and even Dmitri in The Brothers Karamazov. These characters' experiences suggest that Dostoevsky saw suffering as a necessary path to spiritual and moral awakening. In Dostoevsky's philosophy, beauty is a treasuring of suffering because it allows people to find value in what they endure. Through suffering, one can achieve a deeper understanding of compassion and forgiveness, transcending the bitterness of pain to see beauty in its transformative potential. Beauty, then, becomes an ideal that elevates human experience, encouraging people to endure hardship and seek meaning within it rather than escape it. For Dostoevsky, beauty and suffering together embody the tension and depth of life's most profound truths. Embrace learning new skills, step outside your comfort zone, and don't fear failure. It's simply life's way of teaching us important lessons. Life will never be easy, but its purpose lies in the experiences we gain rather than in getting lost in negative thoughts about existence. Yes, it's natural to feel haunted by these thoughts. I've experienced it myself. But dwelling on them too long can lead to a flood of negativity. As Henry Ford wisely stated, life is a series of experiences, each one of which makes us bigger, even though sometimes it is hard to realize this.